Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. Today, I have with me Erin Roese. Now, I was introduced to Erin through Kathy Callahan, so I know my longtime listeners, my badass crew, is like, oh, yeah, right? Well, Kathy said, Erin has to be on your show. And I was like, all right, awesome sauce. Cool. And so now let me tell you a little bit about Erin. Erin is a homeschooling stay-at-home mom, co-author of a #1 best-selling book with Kimberly Olson, and she is the executive producer and host of the Dear Mama, You're Going to Find Your Joy Again podcast. After going through a miscarriage, she's found a passion for helping moms find the joy in their motherhood journey through self-care. And I immediately knew I had to have her on the show when I read that, because I was like, oh, that I know there's people who are possibly going through this, or they've got family who are going through this. So let's spread the message. So Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. You might hear my kids. I apologize. My littlest one just came in and asked for a snack. I'm like, oh, ow, ow. So she's real life, real mom life.
Oh my gosh. We're all either moms or parents. Mm-hmm. We get it. That no worries at all. I'm so glad you're here. And it's good because I'm sure that the people in the audience, after hearing that introduction, are like, wait, did she have kids? What's going on? So I'm sure they're curious. So tell us your story. How'd you get to this point where you're sharing about miscarriage, which isn't something that is talked about openly very often?
It is not. So I have 3 kids, if anybody's wondering. They are at this point 7, 5, and almost 3. And my husband and I were thinking that was good. That was it. And we had a surprise pregnancy. And so very much with all of the feelings that come along with feeling like you're not prepared for that part of your life, because we were thinking we were in a season that was over. And now we're going back into another season of it. And then the other part of it was my immediate reaction was not joy. And I'm very honest about that. My immediate reaction was not joy when I learned about that. And it took me a solid, probably week and a half to really pray about it. My faith is a huge thing for me in my life. And I was able to have peace and just know that everything will be fine and it will be taken care of, because my thought process was immediately, I think a lot of moms and dads have this financially. We're adding another kid. We have a small house. We have a 2-bedroom house, and we have 3 kids, and obviously my husband and I. So I was like, we need a bigger house. We have a car that doesn't fit 4 car seats. We need a new car. We need a new truck because the truck doesn't fit the car seat. So it was just this spiral process of thinking of all these things that we were going to be carrying. And then it was, okay, the joy after seeing my 3 kids. I was like, there's always joy in having another child. It's a blessing. It is never a burden. You just, it was just unexpected. And so I had the miscarriage. So it's been about 9 months, going on 10 months since I had it. And I had to deal with that guilt that came back up, because it was very, very hard at first. It was, this is what you wanted. You didn't want this extra. You wanted to be able to have your body back. You wanted to be able to do all this stuff. And so there was a lot of guilt. And I think that's not talked about at all with people who go through this process, because you do feel that. You feel like it's your fault. You feel like you did something. I mean, honestly, you're thinking like I manifested this, because at first I wasn't happy. And so once I really worked through all those emotions and I sat with those emotions, which is huge if anybody out there is going through it or has gone through it, you do have to sit with those emotions and be okay with letting them come and feeling them and walk through them. Because if you don't, you will never be able to process and move on. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. But when I went through it, I took a step back from everything, social media, everything for about a month, and then came back and I was like, do I want to share this? Because it was very personal. I live in a very small town. So if I was sharing it on social, people I would run into at the grocery store, the post office. And in my head, I'm thinking, do I really want them knowing this? Because if they give me a hug, I'm going to break down. And so I was like, oh, do I share it? And I said, well, I think there's too many people out there that just don't talk about this. So I'm going to share it. And I shared it and it opened up I was amazed at how many women just messaged me or commented that they had been through it too. If they were of the older generation, they had been through it and never told anybody. Some women had been through this almost 10 times. And I was like, did you ever talk to someone? And they said, no. And I said, why? Why? And it just, even now in our time, people don't really talk about it. And it is vulnerable. You don't feel like you can just open up to anybody because not everybody understands. But once I did that and I was very open about it and my journey back to me, I say air quotes,
yeah,
I will never be the same me that I was. And once I realized that's not who I'm trying to get back to, then it really opened up and helped me to be free with saying, I'm on my way back to a healthy version of me that is wiser, that has learned more, that can look at life in a different way and have that empathy for someone that is going through this or has gone through it. And that just brought about the whole Dear Mama, you're going to find your joy again. I was encouraged to start a podcast to be able to really, it's chatting about just finding those simple joys in life as a mother, because it's very hard when you have something like this happen with the grief and just the feelings you can stay stuck in that. And it's very hard to find that joy. And so this was just the journey back and interviewing people that can help you mentally and physically and finding those things that just bring you a smile as a mom, because we all know motherhood is hard.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and what's coming up for me in all of this, because to my knowledge, I've never experienced a miscarriage. Like if I ever did, it was so early on that I didn't even know I was pregnant kind of thing. So I really can't, say that I've experienced that of knowing I was and then not having it. Right. But I can certainly empathize with the piece of motherhood where it's like, it's sometimes hard to find the joy in motherhood, even just as a mother, not even having gone through a miscarriage, right? Because there are times when you're like, when you are in the middle of frustration or like, what the hell is going on?
Like, this day sucks.
Yeah, right?
I'm not going to miss this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to miss it.
So yeah, people tell you you're going to miss it. No, I can virtually guarantee there's some days that I've already forgotten about that I'm never going to miss that
We're
thing,
trying
whatever
to
it was.
move on from that day. Like, I totally agree.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to bring you on, was to talk about some of those things, because I know that we as parents can certainly empathize with different pieces of it, even if we can't empathize because we haven't been through. I mean, we can empathize, sympathize, but we haven't been through that particular experience, that grieving process. So with all of this, you specifically talk about in your introduction here that you so kindly provided for me. You all know that my guests do that, right? So let's not even gloss over that fact. Okay, it's fine. So through this process of getting back to joy, it's through self-care, right? It's doing this. So what are some of the things that you've been finding even just through the beginning? Because your podcast at the point of this recording, your podcast is 8 or 9 episodes old. So you're still at the beginning of your own podcasting journey. But what are some of the things that you've already started learning either through your guests or through conversations with people who've been on to help bring you to a new place of learning and joy through self-care?
I think the biggest thing that just keeps coming up, and it's a theme, it's honestly, we have to deal with our emotions. And so many of us as moms and women in general feel like you cannot show your emotions because you're angry, you are crazy, you are unstable because you have these emotions, and we carry so much as mothers and women. And it's almost like you're not allowed to show that you are struggling or you are having a bad day. And there's a difference between staying stuck in that and just being able to feel it. But the whole theme of pretty much all my guests that have been on have either said this is a major thing that they deal with clients that they have. That's probably almost the number one thing, is that you have to deal with your emotions in order to heal and in order to change your mindset and to be able to move forward. And that was hard for me because I don't like to do that. And I don't think it's uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable to sit and be like, I feel guilty right now. And I feel guilty for the thoughts that I had in the beginning, or I'm angry right now and I'm literally screaming at the sky, swearing because I'm so angry. But it's okay because that's part of it. You have to be comfortable and be part of that because it's very much a way to process and heal. You can go ahead. But that is the number one thing with self-care, is just you have to really mentally take care of you. You have to feel those emotions and sit with them and let them come up and be uncomfortable and be upset. And then you can swing that corner and turn that corner, because that has been a major thing for me. And the other part is just physically just try to move your body. I mean, you don't have to be a marathon runner. You can just like, I don't know. A lot of people think like, have to go to the gym. No, just go for a 5-minute walk, go outside, because if you physically leave your place and you just get fresh air, that is huge for self-care. You just, in nature, for some reason, it does that. It just calms you down. And I think those are the two biggest things, is just your mental health, feelings and emotions, and moving your body and being like fresh air. I'm like, give me the fresh air. It's
no, that's good. And because it seems too simple, too good to be true, to be a way to get through it. And yet it makes perfect sense, right? Because, it's going through something like that. Going through something like a miscarriage, it's not going to be easy.
No.
I mean, it's a grieving process just like any other, right? And yes, there's going to be a multitude of emotions because we are human.
Right.
We don't just feel one thing. There's a reason why the word bittersweet exists, right? Because you're feeling both emotions at the same time. And that happens not just with being upset and being happy, bittersweet. There's other ones. And I wish we had more words in our lexicon and our vocabulary to reflect that, because sometimes we're not feeling just one emotion. It's lots of them.
That was the hardest part, I think. And one thing that really was, I can't even tell you how it felt, was that my due date was October 9th. My oldest's birthday is October 15th. And my middle's is October 11th. And so this year, when we were celebrating birthdays, it was literally this weird feeling of just thankfulness. But then there was that sadness, and then there was that grief that came up. But then it was like my oldest birthday. And then, so you're trying not to have that sadness come in and take away that joy of celebrating another life with your oldest and your middle. And then, but I was trying to allow myself to feel those feelings because I didn't want to push that away. And it was just the most odd feeling. I've never experienced that in my entire life. I was like, I don't even know how to really deal with this. It was just these conflicting emotions, but I just had to sit and let myself on one day be like, I'm really sad today. And that is how my kids knew my angel baby was supposed to be born on that day. So they understood to a certain extent. But it was when you have those conflicting emotions, I'm like, I don't even know how to explain how you feel. It's very odd.
Yeah. And I would also like to say, the emotional piece is not just women. I think
No.
men feel just as handcuffed in not being able to express emotions because they're not supposed to be emotional.
Yes.
They're supposed to be strong and, as you were describing all the things that women might feel like if they showed emotion, they might be seen as these. For me, it's always the hard part is I never want to be seen as weak.
Yes. Yeah, that too.
Like
I don't want to ask for help. I don't need help. That's very much.
It can be tricky, right?
Yes.
And so I think when we bring this up, it gives people permission to do all of this, and be able to deal with the emotions like in a healthy way, because I think there are too many who aren't dealing with it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're doing the show, because if people are hearing this today, it's because the universe believed you needed to hear this.
You needed to hear this. And it's honestly as simple as just go outside, be sad outside, sad outside. You feel better outside. It's just something with, I don't know. It's just something as for me, I was like, I can just deal with the chaos and everything better outside. My kids being loud outside. Let's just go out there. And but those two things are huge, and they're not easy things to do. I said dealing with your emotions is hard, but also sometimes you can talk yourself out of, I don't have time to go for a walk. I don't have time to go outside right now. I have too many other things to do. But those are the simplest things you can do to start that process. And they're huge.
Yeah. And I think too, to speak to the busyness part of it, because yes, you're a stay-at-home mom, a homeschooling mom, a podcaster, and you also have a business on the side too, right? That you're doing with all of this to, help yourself, help people feel better about themselves through self-care. And so that's another reason why I want to have you on the show, is because the business you have is in the world of direct sales and network marketing. So you are one of us. You are part of the badass crew here.
Yes.
And talking about how to incorporate all of these different things, right? And like how do you juggle? Because I'm a homeschooling mom now.
Juggle. I don't know if that's the word.
Right. So, whether people want to call it juggling, some people call it balance. I call it harmony because I don't think there is such thing as balance.
I don't either. I don't believe that. I'm like, I don't think there is balance, because you have to sometimes you give more attention because you have to. It's not that you want to or need to. You have to. Otherwise, this won't happen, or this won't, or your house is going to implode. So,
right. Yeah. Sometimes you have to pay more attention to, family and things that are going on there. And especially if you're someone who's going through something as traumatic as a miscarriage, right? That is going to pull away from your business a little bit in some ways. And I know other people who've used that as their escape. It was their chance to be like, you know what? I need some time where I'm not thinking about that. Let me go work on my business. So let's talk about that piece. Because how did your business play into your own grief process and the self-care piece?
So I originally was with a company for 14 years. And at that point, I was starting to feel, so even before the miscarriage happened, I was just starting to feel like it wasn't aligning of where I was in life with motherhood. It was just really, just being very honest, I just felt like it was taking a lot of my time away from my family. And I was just like, I feel like I need a shift. I feel like I need a change, but I'm not really sure what that is right now. And so fast forward about a year and this happened. I went through the miscarriage. And when I took a step back, I stopped doing everything. And when I came back, because I'm in Kathy Callahan's impact program, I chatted with her and the coaches, Carla, and I said, I just feel like the passion is not there. The passion has always been to help moms feel better about themselves and find that joy. And I could do that because it was health and wellness, skincare, but it was not, I just didn't feel like it was aligning anymore. And I'm like, I've never been in this position. I've been with the company for 14 years, so I don't know where to go from here. And so I really, once I took a step back and I was able to talk with them and really try to get a clear vision on where do you want to go? And I said, I don't want this to be just a sad part of my story. I want this to be something that I can use to help others, and how I can bring awareness to it. I'm going to bring that into my business. And so really just, I think the spark was just kind of dying out in my passion for that. And then once this happened, it was like, I have a whole new passion for moms to help them find their joy in motherhood again, whether they've been through a miscarriage or not. It's just finding those little things. And so that catapulted me into, I'm going to do a podcast. And then it was like, okay, well, what other little things as being a mom bring me joy? Having pretty nails. So I decided to join Color Street, and I was like, other moms have said this to me too. I know I love having pretty nails, but I can't afford to go to the salon. I can't wait for it to dry. I mean, we can't wait for it to dry. I have a 3-year-old, and I'm like, literally, she just came in here twice. You saw. I was like, go away. You don't have time for that to dry. You don't, and I said, this totally fits with motherhood and where I'm at right now. And it's just very much just really started to get clear on, in my business, what brings me joy, what lights my fire, what really doesn't feel like work at this point. And it's honestly, I mean, you have to work, you have to do work in any business, but if it brings energy into you and doesn't suck the energy out of you when you're done, I feel like that's when you found something that really you're meant to be doing, and you're aligning with really what you're supposed to be doing. Because I get energy from, podcasting. I'm like, I can't go to sleep right now. If I do an interview, and with the nails, I'm like, my nails are so pretty. Like, I don't have them done right now. But the other week I was just like, this makes me smile. I have my hands on my coffee cup and it makes me happy. So,
yes.
My house is a mess, but it's fine. Whatever. My nails are pretty, but it's, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. Yes. When we look around our house and it's clean,
it makes me happy.
I don't know about anybody else. I feel relief. I don't feel happy. I don't look around my house and go, oh my God, I'm so happy my house is clean. It's more of like relief. That's a very
good way to put
different feeling. And I'm just saying that's me. I don't know if everybody feels that way. There are probably some people who are super happy, but that's just not me.
Yeah.
I can agree with you that when there are certain things like my nails are pretty or, oh my gosh, today I did my makeup. And right now, you and I are recording this. This is an audio podcast. In 2024, I'm going to start recording video podcasts. And you know what? Oh, yeah, I am. Absolutely. Because I'm like, I've had enough people ask, where can I watch your show?
Yes, like, do it.
Wait, you think I have okay, let's do it.
Awesome.
But my plan is yes, I will show up with at least the basics done.
Right.
But you know what? Sometimes there are going to be days when I'm going to show up in a hoodie, because you know what? It's one of those days, and I'm going to be real, because that's what people freaking love about me.
Yes.
Is that I'm real. And I think for you, in looking at what brings joy, when your nails are done, you're happy. Like, if it makes you smile and you're like, yes, I got this done.
It's so pretty right now. And then I look around my house, I'm like, all right, at least I said, who was I talking to? I said, oh, it's so funny because my daughter's not potty trained yet. We're working on it. But I said, when I look down and I'm wiping her little hiney and I'm like, oh, my nails look really good as I'm. That is something that I can be like, okay, there's joy in that. Okay. It's just a little thing. It's just, all right, it's okay. We're wiping butts, but I still have pretty nails.
Yeah, exactly. I want people to understand, like, it's those little things, right? And this is what you're talking about in your podcast, and you're bringing it together with your business. It makes sense, right? Yes. Having these things so that, not everybody who listens to your podcast is going to be interested in having pretty nails, but those who do are going to go, oh my God, yes. And there are still people. Now, I've been aware of Color Street for 7+ years now. Okay. I've been aware of it. There are still people out there who don't know it exists. And your podcast may be the introduction. They go, you know what? I am having a grief day today, but
let's get you some pretty sparkle nails. There's
I will go to her link and I will just get me some pretty nails. Because at this point, I need it, right?
Yes.
And I think that it makes sense to have these things that play in on that build each other. Right.
Yes.
And people are going to be happy. You know what? Not only do I get pretty nails, but I get to help someone who helped me feel better today.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes perfect sense. And that's
It's
fantastic.
a win-win.
And that's what we go for, right?
Yes.
Win-wins are always important. So,
yes.
So Erin, I absolutely adore this idea. Where
Thank
can
you.
people find Dear Mom? Let's make sure I get it right here. Dear Mama, you're going to find your joy again. Where can they find that podcast?
So you can listen to it on Apple and Spotify, and you can follow me my personal page on Facebook, just under Erin Roese, or you can join the Dear Mama, You're Going to Find Your Joy Again Facebook group. I have created a group with just little things, that make me smile, and just, you can see the Color Street nails. You can see really kind of what's happening in my life right now, and just cute clothes and that sort of thing to really help moms, just in motherhood. And I do hit on some days I'm very honest about, I'm going through this, I'm feeling this way, but I try to really focus on just journeying ahead, and revisiting that part of my life as those emotions come up, but just trying to help others find that simple joy in motherhood. And some days, like we said, it's pretty nails, or it can be that you got to kind of drink a hot cup of coffee today. Like you got half of it.
At least it wasn't an unintentional iced coffee, as I call them in my house.
Oh my word. I'm like, oh, it's cold again. Heat it up.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The unintentional iced coffee. I
don't even like iced coffee. I'm like, I don't like iced coffee. And I'm like, I wish I did, because I would totally drink it. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm generally a hot coffee, even in the summertime.
Me too.
Kind of girl. So
90 degrees. I'm like, give me hot coffee.
Yes, still. Now on a super hot day here in St. Louis, there might be a day where I'll go ahead and pour it over ice and just be like that. Yes.
You got to do it.
Most of the time, I want a hot cup of coffee. Just hold it in my hands.
It makes you feel good.
Yes, it does. I love it. All right. So Erin, we're going to have all those links for the Badass Crew in the show notes. Awesome. So that way you guys can go join the group. You can friend her on Facebook so you can see those personal things that she's sharing there. And then we'll also have a link to the podcast for Apple and Spotify. So that way, if you guys are like, oh, I want to go hear these stories, I want to find my joy again too, because maybe you're somebody who's going through this, or someone who's going through this. That's why I wanted to get Erin on the show, is to share this message out. So thank you so much for being here, Erin. I so appreciate
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. I was so excited to come on.
Oh,
I felt like a rock star. I'm like, I'm going to be on Jenny's. I'm going to be on her show. And my husband's like, great.
And he has no idea.
He has no idea. I'm like, you don't understand.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh.
I'm like a rock star right now.
Yes, you are. Of course you are. You're one of our guests.
It's so funny. He's like, okay.
Yeah. Someday he'll get it. Someday
he'll get it. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of, which is, I think, absolutely hilarious. So I was just on the Podcasters Cruise about a month ago, and somebody messaged me, and her husband said, "Hey, I see you're on the Podcasters Cruise with Jenny Bellinger. Have fun." And I was like, ooh, wait, how does your husband know?
It's
and he knows. Well, I know. So turns out she has a direct sales business as well. Okay. And he just happened to see us cross posting and tagging each other on Facebook and everything. And so he went and looked me up, and he's like, she's a big deal in podcasting. Have fun with her. Like, I was like,
that is amazing.
Right? Seriously. I was like,
I can't wait for that to happen. And I'm like,
right. Trust me. Like, I was not expecting
That's
that.
so cool.
So, and you should totally come with us on the next Podcasters Cruise later this year.
I would love to. When is it? Tell me what I have to plan.
I'll send you the link, but it's basically anybody who's listening right now. If you have a podcast or you want to get on podcasts, you should be on the Podcasters Cruise. Go to podcastersatsea.com.
Okay. I didn't even know this.
I know. Well, it's only the second annual one happening. So, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. Yeah, it's fabulous. So anyway, but thank you again for being here. Yes, all of the links are in the show notes, guys. If you don't know how to get to the show notes, maybe this happens to be the first time you've ever listened to the show, which welcome to the show. And the way you get to the show notes is grab your phone, as long as you're not driving, click on today's episode, Scroll under Erin's picture and you will see all of the links right there, along with some key takeaways. So if you want to remember what we talked about in today, it's in the show notes along with all of her links. So thank you again, Erin. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Oh my gosh. And badass crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.